Good morning, everyone. It's Jared here from Intermission Tours. I'm going to take a little walk over the Millennium Footbridge, the Wobbly Bridge, the Harry Potter Bridge. It's known by many names. We're here on the south bank. We're going to take a walk over towards St. Paul's Cathedral in the distance. It should be on the north bank. Underneath us, there are miles and miles of waste pipes, sewer pipes, which in the late 1800s were designed by a man named Joseph Bazalgette. Around 83 miles of waste pipes. The river here is not that deep. The river either side of it is quite deep, so the Romans originally put a bridge here simply because it was, to them, a bridgeable area. They would travel along on a boat along the 210-mile River Thames, putting sticks in the river, thinking, well, this is a bit too deep. They got here, and they thought, well, we can put a bridge here. The foundations won't need to be that deep. And the original London Bridge, which we know only from a couple of sketches and some diary accounts, was, by all accounts, maybe twice as long as the present London Bridge, and would have had at least 150 shops, houses, and a church in the middle. If you lived in the distance there near St. Paul's, there wouldn't have been a bridge in this area, so you would have had to walk to London Bridge, walk over through the shops, the houses, through the churchyard, make your way to this side to see a play, to experience animal fighting, to visit an inn of ill repute. Basically, this side of the river was Sin City. This was Las Vegas. This was the entertainment district of Europe. And on the other side of the river was the city, with a capital C, of London. The Puritans were in charge of London, and they hated everything. So inside London, no theatre, no singing, no dancing, no sport, no gambling, no animal fighting. Essentially, no fun. But if you did live around St. Paul's Cathedral and you wanted to cross the river and you couldn't really have the time to walk to London Bridge, you took a ferryman. A boatman would take you. There were thousands of them lining the river. And then over the years, what happened was steel containers were starting to be used on the boats more and more. And in this area, the river, as I said, was not that deep, so the steel containers were pushing down the boats, and the bottoms of the boats were dragging along the riverbed. So bridges were designed to take the steel containers over. These guys were put out of work. They thought, well, how do we keep a living when everyone's taking bridges and nobody's taking boats anymore? So they persuaded the local authorities to retain their services, to pay them a retainer in case there was a war and the authorities and the government and the royal family, the country, needed a navy. And then these guys would not have found other work, and they would be available to drop whatever they were doing at a moment's notice and sail the boats. There are two other bridges either side of us. You've got Blackfriars there in the distance, and on the right-hand side you've got Southwark Bridge. Southwark Bridge, very well known to fans of Mary Poppins. Mr. Banks, who at the end of the film runs away. They think he's gone to jump off a bridge. It's actually Southwark Bridge that they're referring to. And on the left-hand side, Blackfriars Bridge. The one we can see right in front of us is the rail bridge. So that's a platform going all the way across. Blackfriars is the only station in the country that's on both sides of the river. On this side, the south bank, it's the train, the overground, and on the other side, it's the underground. But essentially, Blackfriars Station is on both sides of the river. And then just beyond that, poking out the red and white bridge, is the road and foot and cycle bridge. Let's take a walk up to the Millennium Bridge. It is a suspension bridge. Now we know with suspension bridges we've got the Golden Gate, the Manhattan Bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, steel suspension bridges, and this one is no different in name. It is actually a suspension bridge. But there's a height restriction in this area. Some of the cables and the wires are underneath, and some are above, but they're not stretched up. Because of the height restriction, they are stretched to the side. It's 325 meters long, which is 1,066 feet. About the length of the Shard. So if you turn this building on its side, this bridge I should say, it would reach the height of the Shard, which is in the distance to the right. At its widest, it's 4 meters, about 13 feet wide. And it's in 3 sections with 2 foundations. The longest section in the center is 144 meters, 472 feet. And it looks from here, as we're walking, that the bridge leads all the way to St. Paul's Cathedral, which opened in 1708, the great Christopher Wren designed church, which replaced the previous St. Paul's Church, which was destroyed in the Great Fire of London. They called this a terminating vista. So the idea is, for your eyes, right now as we're looking, it seems as if the bridge ends all the way at St. Paul's, but it stops quite a bit before. There are 8 suspension cables, 4 on either side, and it pulls with a force of 2,000 tons. You can see 4 of the cables here, and there are 4 on the other side as well. The plan always was that you could get the weight of 5,000 people at a time on the bridge. The design for it was chosen by a competition, and the group that won the competition were called the Arup Group, A-R-U-P. They won the competition in 1998. The builders were Monberg and Thorsen, who also designed a bridge in Denmark, which was used in the TV series, the Scandinois series, The Bridge. The Oresund Bridge, that bridge is known as. The actual construction company were Robert McAlpine. It cost £18.2 million. It opened in the middle of the year 2000. 100,000 people crossed it on that day, and it wobbled. 8,000 at the same time were on it, and it caused this sideways vibration. It's known as synchronous lateral excitation. If you think of getting on a boat, a small boat, and you're trying to avoid the sway of that boat, you end up going with the sway. So 8,000 people ended up trying to deal with the sway by going with the sway, and they then renamed it the Wobbly Bridge, but it closed for close to a year and a half.
He likes to get new hats.
And they decided to re-stabilize the bridge. In those 18 months they put fluid dampeners, you get them in large skyscrapers all over the world, to deal with the wind. So if the wind in a skyscraper, these skyscrapers in the distance would have the same, the wind is hitting the top of them too much, they have fluid which then goes in the other side, and it kind of balances it out. And it opened again on February 22nd, 2022. There are thousands of pieces of chewing gum on the bridge. You get chewing gum everywhere on the sidewalks, the pavements, the roads. Very difficult to keep track of them and get rid of them all. Have to use pressure sprayers. But here, one man has turned them into pieces of art. And there are thousands of pieces of art here. This bridge has become home to a man named Ben Wilson, the chewing gum man. And he paints them. They have recorded the sound as well of the bridge. The high frequency sounds with the wind running through the steel cables. They called it the Orchestra of Cable Resonance. But as I said, it's a Millennium Bridge. There are 12 of them all over the world. This one is one of the most iconic because of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. The Death Eaters destroy the bridge. It's not mentioned in the book because the book came out in the 1990s before the film was made. There is an argument there that the film is set in the 1990s and the Death Eaters destroy a bridge which didn't actually exist. So you could say it's historically inaccurate. It's also mentioned and seen in the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, 2014. If I turn around here, you can see the Tate Modern Art Gallery. It was originally the Bankside Power Station.
Yeah.
Opened in 1947 as a power station, burnt oil to generate electricity for the north side. Closed in 1981. Herzog and de Meuron, the architects, started work on the gallery in 1995, and it opened in May of 2000. And over there we see Blackfriars Rail Bridge, the platform. And there are thousands of solar panels at the top which power the lights. And the building there, it's very futuristic, is One Blackfriars, a new residential block. First Blackfriars Bridge was put there in 1769 and then redesigned and rebuilt in 1869. That's also mentioned and seen in Harry Potter in the Order of the Phoenix. The Order themselves pass under Blackfriars Bridge from Privet Drive to Grimald Place. Now we're coming over towards St. Paul's. As I said, a very busy day, but lovely to see. In early August, we're finally getting a good summer here. It's amazing to think that originally there were just two bridges crossing the River Thames. You can see Tower Bridge in the distance. Just in front of that, towards us, is the modern London Bridge, but the next bridge west, behind where we are, was 15 miles or 22 kilometres away. The two quietest bridges are Southwark Bridge and the Albert Bridge, which is in the postcode SW11 in Battersea. And the Albert Bridge, actually, is another one of those wobbly bridges. There's actually a sign on the Albert Bridge that says, if workmen or soldiers are marching over this bridge, please break step. So the idea would be if they marched, it would create that synchronous lateral excitation and the bridge would wobble too much. On the left of us is a school, Another Harry Potter reference coming up. Daniel Radcliffe went here. City of London School. By all accounts, he didn't have the greatest time at school because he was filming and then being schooled as well. Coming back here, and he said he was quite embarrassed he would be bullied by some of the other kids saying, "Oh, look, it's Harry Potter." He kind of got the last laugh after becoming a very successful actor and a multi-millionaire to boot. I think that helped ease the pain of the gentle bullying that he did receive. And this is the College of Arms, just in front of us here. This is where we'll end. We're at the end of the Millennium Bridge now. Just here, the College of Arms. This building is not the original. First one was in the 1500s, and it's for heraldry and ancestry. So if you wanted to research your family tree, you've got English heritage, you would come here to the College of Arms. George Washington in the 1780s applied for a coat of arms, incorporating, believe it or not, the stars and stripes, which were then incorporated into the flag of the United States. Seen in the film On Her Majesty's Secret Service in the 1960s, George Lazenby comes here to get the Order of Merit, and Daniel Craig himself was given that same Commander Order of Merit after he finished filming No Time to Die, the final James Bond film in his series anyway. Do join me again, Jared at Intermission Tours. Do subscribe, and I will see you very, very soon. Lots of love to you all.